Welcome on Easy Learning. Now today I am going to start a new chapter, Nalanda, Ancient Seat of Learning, written by Dr. Rajendra Parsad. In this part of the video, I will read about the chapter, and in other parts of the videos, in the next part of the video, I will explain about Rajendra Parsad, and in the other parts of the videos, I will explain them. So patiently, you can listen to the audio and you can also read with me as many times it is possible. Nalanda, Ancient Seat of Learning by Dr. Rajendra Parsad. Rajendra Parsad was born in 1884 and died in 1962. Born in Zeradai, Bihar, was the first president of the Republic of India. As president, he had moderating influence on the political thinking of the period. He also shared Gandhiji's great vision, the making of a new man in society, a living embodiment of plain living and high thinking. Dr. Parsad was a statesman, scholar, historian, educationist, lofty idealist, social reformer, and above all, great constructive thinker. The speech Nalanda, Ancient Seat of Learning, taken from Speeches of President Rajendra Parsad, Volume 1, was delivered by Dr. Rajendra Parsad at the foundation stone-laying ceremony of Magad Research Institute, Nalanda, on November 20, 1951. In this speech, Dr. Parsad enunciates the past glory of the Nalanda University and pleads for its revival. His emphasis on the perfectly harmonious relationship between the Guru and the Shishya for imparting and receiving of knowledge is of particular interest today. Nalanda, Ancient Seat of Learning. We have gathered here in Nalanda, the renowned ancient university town, with the noble aim of reviving the ancient glory of Nalanda in the world of knowledge. It is with this object in view that the government of this state has decided to establish the Magad Research Institute for the study of Pali and Prakrit and research in Buddhist literature and philosophy. Nalanda is the symbol of the most glorious period of our history, for not only did the quest for knowledge blossom here into its finest shape, but also because it bound together at that time the various parts of Asia with links of knowledge. There are no national and racial distinctions in the realm of knowledge, and this was true of Nalanda. The message of Nalanda was heard across the mountains and oceans of the Asian mainland, and for nearly 6 centuries, it continued to be the center of Asian consciousness. The history of Nalanda dates back to the age of Lord Buddha and Lord Mahavira. According to Jain records, Lord Mahavira met Acharya Mankhila at Nalanda. Lord Mahavira is said to have lived here for 14 years. According to the Sutra Kritang Lipa, a rich citizen of Nalanda welcomed Lord Buddha with his entire wealth and possessions and became his disciple. According to Lam Taranath, the learned history of Tibet, Nalanda was the birthplace of Sariputra, whose samadhi survived till the reign of Emperor Ashoka, who enlarged it by installing a temple around it. Though tradition associates Nalanda with Lord Buddha and Emperor Ashoka, yet it emerged as a flourishing university sometime in the Gupta age. Taranath maintains that both Bhikshu, Nagarjuna and Arya Deva were associated with Nalanda University and says further that Acharya Dengang visited Nalanda and had a scholarly discussion. In the 4th century AD, Fahian, a Chinese pilgrim, visited Nalanda and saw the stupa constructed at the spot where Sariputra took birth and died. But it was not until much later that Nalanda acquired its outstanding position. In the 7th century AD, when during the reign of Emperor Harshvardhana, Hunsang came to India, Nalanda was the height of its glory. Referring to a Jataka story, Hunsang writes that it derived its name from Nalanda, the peace of mind, which Lord Buddha failed to achieve in his previous births. Nalanda University was born with the help of liberal public charity and donations. It is believed to have been founded originally with an endowment created by 500 traders who purchased land with their money and offered it to Lord Buddha as a gift. By the time of Yun Sang's visit, Nalanda had become a full-fledged university and had at the time 6 large viharas. The 8th century inscription of Yasovarman contains a telling description of Nalanda. The high spires of the viharas in a row seemed to the sky high, and around them were tanks of clear water in which floated red and yellow lotuses, interspersed by the cool shade of the mango groves. The architecture and the sculptures of the halls, containing rich ornamentations and beautiful idols, filled one with wonder. Although there are many Sangharams in India, but the one at Nalanda is unequaled. At the time of the Chinese traveller Tsing's visit, there were 300 big rooms and 8 halls. The remains discovered by archaeological excavations fully bear out the truth of these descriptions. The teachers and students at Nalanda were made completely free of economic worries. Besides the gift of land and buildings, the revenue of 100 villages had been set apart in the form of a trust to meet recurring expenditure. This property of the trust had increased to 200 villages by the time of Tsing's visit. The 3 states of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Bengal had taken considerable part in the building and financial maintenance of Nalanda University. Copper plates and statues of the age of Maharaja Dharmpal Dev and Devpal Dev of Bengal have been found at Nalanda in the course of archaeological excavation. One of these copper plates sheds lights on the international relations maintained by Nalanda. We learn from it that Sri Balputra Deva, the Shailendra Emperor of Swarn Sipa, now a part of Indonesia, had sent his envoy to Devpal Deva, the ruler of Magad, with a request that he should make a gift to 5 villages to Nalanda on behalf of the former. According to his copper plate inscription, Balputra, the emperor of Java, being deeply impressed by the achievement of Nalanda, had a large vihara constructed here to give visible expression of his devotion to Lord Buddha. This is but an example that has survived by sheer chance and which gives us an indelible impression of the glory which Nalanda enjoyed the world over. Indeed, the Nalanda Mahaviharya Arya Bhikshu Sangh was held in great esteem all over Asia. Many clay seals of this Sangh have been found at Nalanda. At the time of Huan Sang's visit, Nalanda had 10,000 students and 1,500 teachers. From this, it is obvious that teachers could pay individual attention to the education and training of their student. In fact, Nalanda was then only a center of higher education similar to the Institute of Postgraduate Research which are now proposing to establish here. Scholars from such distant countries as China, Korea, Tibet, Turkestan, and Mongolia came to Nalanda to study and collect Buddhist literature. It had the biggest library in Asia. It was from Nalanda that copies of many manuscripts, thou traveling pilgrims, reached China and were translated in Chinese. In a way, Nalanda had blossomed forth as a center of higher learning, and it was considered a mark of honor to be associated with Nalanda. The citizens ensured the perseveration of many a rare volume by getting copies and keeping them here for safe custody. When in the 12th century its library was destroyed, many of the manuscripts had already found their way to Nepal and Tibet, and many of these manuscripts are still there. Without any reference to one particular religion, 100 lectures were delivered every day at Nalanda. Both Brahminical and Buddhist literature, philosophy, sciences, and art formed part of the syllabus of Nalanda University. A majority of the monks used to study the works on Mahayana and the other 18 Nikayas of the Buddhist faith, but there also was provision for the study and teaching of the Vedas and allied literature. The liberalism practiced by the educational authorities of Nalanda was unique, and seeds of Nalanda's rise and progress lay in the academic attitude which freely exposed itself to the religion and philosophy of all mankind without any prejudice whatsoever. The syllabus of Nalanda University was drawn up with great wisdom, and by following it, students were increasingly successful in their daily life. It had made a study of 5 subjects compulsory: grammar, by which one could get an adequate mastery of the language; logic, which taught the student to judge every issue rationally; medical science, study of which enabled the student to keep himself, as also others, in perfect health; and lastly, handicrafts. Knowledge of one craft or another was compulsory to make the students financially independent. Besides these 4 subjects, religion and philosophy were studied, depending on one's own special interest. The high ideal which Nalanda had set in the matter of the courses of study deserves our attention and consideration even now. It was this well-coordinated course of studies which made the knowledge of its students both deeply penetrating and utilitarian in its practical application. Hyun Sang studied law, yoga, phonetics, and Panini's grammar at the feet of Acharya Shila Bhadra, the chancellor of the university, and after it, for a period of 5 years, read through many Buddhist works and was especially interested in the works of Mahayana. Similarly, it Sangs, the Chinese traveler, studied books on Theravada at Nalanda. The scholars of Nalanda carried the torch of knowledge to foreign countries. For instance, Strong Chen Gampo, the emperor of Tibet, with a view to introducing and popularizing Sanskrit script and the knowledge of India in his country, sent a scholar called Thonim Samphoth to Nalanda, where he studied Buddhistic and Brahminical literature under Acharya Dev Vida Sin. After this, in the 8th century AD, Acharya Shanti Rakshit, the chancellor of Nalanda University, went to Tibet in response to an invitation from the emperor. Acharya Kamal Shila, the chief authority on Tantra Vidya, also visited Tibet. Nalanda scholars learnt the Tibetan language and translated Buddhist and Sanskrit works into it. Thus they presented an entirely new literature to Tibet and gradually converted its inhabitants to Buddhism. Acharya Shanti Rakshit of Nalanda established for the first time in 749 AD a Buddhist vihar in Tibet. It is necessary that the books available in the Triptikar literature of Tibet be translated once again into Sanskrit. They would not only shed new light on Indian history and culture, but would also help us to form a complete picture of the contribution made by Nalanda University in the pursuit of knowledge. Further, it is also believed that Korean scholars came to study the Vinaya and Abhidharma at Nalanda. It is quite possible that Korean translations of original Sanskrit works may still be extant in Korea. Besides being famous for its studies in literature and religion, Nalanda was also a center of fine arts and influenced the art of Nepal, Tibet, Indonesia, and Central Asia. The bronze statues of Nalanda are impressive and beautiful, and scholars believe that statues of Buddha found at Kurighar bear traces of the Nalanda school. It is true that the achievement of Nalanda was born of an all-inclusive pursuit of knowledge in which religion and philosophy, language and handicrafts had equal importance. We should aim at reviving the educational system of a bygone era and re-establish Nalanda as a center of art, literature, philosophy, religion, and science. Cultural renaissance can come about in the life of nation only when a large number of determined scholars devote a lifetime to search after truth. Though the Magad Research Institute is still very young, but molded to the needs of the age, it can be expected to develop into the center we wish it to be.